Welcome to the Dream Hub podcast. I'm your host, Melissa, and today's guest is someone who has spent decades exploring the space where psychology meets something far more mysterious: intuition, dreams, and the deeper intelligence behind both. I'm joined by Marcia Emery, a pioneer in applied intuition, a trained social psychologist, and someone who didn't just study the mind, she followed it beyond the edges of what's traditionally accepted. She's authored multiple books on intuition and healing, created one of the first college courses on whole brain thinking, and has brought dreams and intuition into both academic and mainstream spaces, from classrooms to television. Now she's presenting at the International Association for the Study of Dreams conference, continuing her work at the intersection of science, intuition, and the dream world. And today we're going to explore what happens when you actually trust that inner voice and how dreams might be one of the clearest ways it speaks. Thank you, Marcia. Thank you so much for coming on. I'm very excited to hear everything you have to tell us about.
And I want to thank you for having me here and for that lovely introduction.
You're
I'm
welcome.
so pleased. I'm so pleased to be here.
Oh, great. So you started in traditional psychology, but your work moved into intuition and dreams. What was the moment or experience that made you realize there was something more going on?
That happened a long time ago. And I will tell you when as we go on. Uh, and it's a moment that I will never forget. It's a set of experiences that culminated. And it started with my mother sending me a book. Now, you know when a mother wants her daughter to have something. And she found this Sidney Omar's astrological book for Pisces. And I am a Pisces. So she thought this would be cute, to send this to her daughter. And at that time, I had nothing to do with astrology. Even I wasn't involved with dream work at all. So I said, okay, I take the book and I open it up. And it says at that particular time, make sure you record your dreams. Something most interesting is about to happen. So what comes into my mind is like, Simon says, do this. Mama says, the book says. I get a book and I just date it and I put it down. I say, okay, whatever comes up, comes up. So that's the beginning. And that night, I actually had a dream that I remembered. And in the dream, I put my foot on the brake of my car and it went right to the floor. The car rolled around and I got out unharmed. So I get out, up, and I say, oh my, I'm a psychologist. That's pretty negative to send to a psychologist. We're going to boom, with this accident. And it just puzzled me. And I did whatever I did was just slam the book, put it away in the drawer, and I forgot about it. Okay. Now, in my real life setting, I am a psychologist, as you said. I was teaching psychology to undergraduates and graduates. And so my love was teaching. And I had another love, which was also dance and music. And I went, when I say back and forth, between the two during the day, during the daytime hours. Um, I'm also at that time, it's 1971. I'm single. I live with Bonnie and Clyde, my two cats. And as I say, I'm in love with the psychology work that I'm doing and teaching and dance. So part of my life revolves around both of those, I won't say extremes, but both of those adventures in my life. Okay. So it's the next day, and it's Saturday. And I remember this clearly uh, because I was picking up Mike. He was one of my dancers, and we had a rehearsal, and it was Saturday morning. So I pick up Mike, and I'm driving, and he sits right next to me in the passenger seat. I didn't want to say this next word, but I'll say it. It used to be known as the death seat because we didn't have seat belts. So Mike is in that seat, and I'm driving along, and we come to a certain part in Washington, D.C., where there's just loads of traffic. And we stop for a moment, and all the cars in front of me, the people on the sidewalk, Saturday morning. I put my foot on the brake and it goes right to the floor. I said, Mike, I put my foot on the brake and it goes to the floor. He said, pull up the emergency. I said, that's not working either. I had a split second to do something very uncharacteristic. I said, what'll I do? That was uncharacteristic. What'll I do? And I heard a voice, and the voice said, make a quick right. So I quickly made a right, and I got between a clothing store, two clothing stores. My car smashes, practically destroyed, and when I come to Mike in that proverbial DC, not a scratch on him, and Marcia has a bruise on her knee. Well, I look at him, he looks at me, and we're happy to be alive at that moment. So I thought, okay, what next can I possibly drive the car? So I didn't want to tell my mother that I had an accident. She lives outside of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and I'm in Washington, D.C., and I didn't want to worry her about the accident. So I managed to get the crumpled car home, Mike also, and I walk into my house, and the first thing I hear is the phone ringing. And I pick up the phone, and it's my mother. And she says, how's your car? Now she is 500 miles away, and she is saying to me, how is your car? So I said, Mom, what kind of thing is that to say? You don't ask how I am, how is Bonnie, how is Clyde, how is your car? And the poor woman started crying. And she said, I don't know why I said that. She heard that I was upset. She said, please forgive me. I don't know why I said that. I said, Mom, it's okay. You know, I was just in a major accident, but don't worry. I'm okay. I'm talking to you. And somehow you picked that up. I heard a voice, and my mother is saying, how is your car? Oh my God, I had that dream about putting my foot on the brake. I didn't understand any of this to put this whole thing together. It took me quite a while. So that was the first dramatic entrance into precognitive dreams. I didn't even know the name precognitive. Parapsychology? I'm a shrink. I'm a psychology teacher. I'm a dancer. I'm a lover of music. And I don't understand why I had that dream. But forget about it. Let's see what happens. Okay. So it's about a week and a half later, and I have another dream. And this one was extremely clear. I could call it lucid, though it was no relation to lucid dreaming at that time. But I called it very, very, just a clear dream. And in this dream, I'm going down 14th Street to an 11 o'clock meeting at the college. It's Sunday morning. And as I'm driving down, I put my foot on the brake to stop, and I hear a ping, but the brake stops and the car stops, and I don't know what's happening. Well, I happened to look up and see a policeman coming along. And that was handy because right above me on the street was a sign that said no parking here. So the policeman comes along and I say, "Sir, I hope you don't mind. I have a problem with my car. I'm on my way to an 11 o'clock meeting. It says no parking. Do you mind if I leave my car here?" End of dream. You want me to tell you what happened?
Please.
I just did. Literally, literally.
The
I
same thing.
the same thing. This is Sunday morning. I'm driving down 14th Street to that meeting. I put my foot on the brake and I hear this ping. The only thing wasn't written in the dream. After hearing the ping, I kind of relaxed because I went through this already, in the written dream and with the other. Again, I look up, a policeman is coming, a man. He was as nice as could be. I leave my car there, and so on. But I was still very perplexed. My car, it was a brake cable that snapped.
Mm.
What are the odds that in 10 days I'm going to have two brake experiences with the car and two dreams? I was just absolutely stunned by all of this. So that was my introduction into precognition. I didn't know the word, but that was my introduction into the world of dreams.
Wow.
It took my breath away
Yeah.
and still does.
You were
Oh,
really thrown into it, weren't you?
oh my goodness, absolutely, absolutely. Um,
Wow. That's, I don't know, like that's, people would say that's crazy. But now, working with dreams, we understand that these things are so possible. But, you're at a young age, it was your first introduction to dreams, you just read the book, and then wham, bam, it's
Baba
happening.
Sam. And I said, that's crazy. And I
Yeah.
had just watched The Exorcist a couple months before. And I thought, oh my God, what is happening to me? Now, you have to realize at this time in my life, nobody ever called me psychic. Nobody ever called me intuitive. I didn't think of myself that way. Uh, I was just a psychologist, a humble psychologist who loves dreams, who loves her cats, and who loves to dance. That didn't stop me from dancing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow, that's a great story. Thank you so much for sharing that. And now, one of the reasons that I got you on this podcast was because we want to hear about your presentation that you'll be doing at IASD. Would you like to share what the central idea is that you're bringing to the stage and why it matters right now?
Yes, it's all under the banner of precognition, precognitive dreams, uh, which I've said it twice. I don't want to say it again, but obviously I was not informed about precognition at that time. And through the years, it took me 10 years to find that word in a book. And I found it in Edgar Mitchell, the astronaut. I
Mhm.
found it in his book, Psi Explorations. And I'm not even living in Washington anymore, but I'll come back to that. Uh, and I was absolutely stunned reading this book to realize, my goodness, that's exactly what has been happening to me. So, what I have discovered about these precognitive dreams, they're extraordinary, absolutely extraordinary. And they take us into the realm of unlimited possibilities beyond time and space. So over these 10, 11 years, I'm having incredible experiences that I don't know where they came from. People I didn't know, people I'm meeting, new situations beyond time and space. And the beautiful thing about the precognition is, it's two parts going beyond, because the information that is coming, uh, it gives us premonitions, warnings, and it also gives us possibilities, the possibilities of things about to happen that may or may not come true, as we said. So it's the promise. We want the promise, we want the positive, but we also get, what do we get? We get those premonitions. And my dream was obvious. Those two dreams were obviously warnings, negative warnings about things coming up. So, one of the things I have worked with over the years, especially starting with them, let's try to demystify precognition and that it's always going to be negative. Let's look at the promise. Let's look at the good things that come into our dreams. And many dreams have to do with work. So I'm going to give you a dream.
Okay.
At this time, I'm still living in Washington, D.C., but I took a trip to Nassau, Bahamas, the land of my dreams, okay, the Bahamas. And when I'm there, I'm wondering what is my next step. I've resigned my professorship. Who does that? I did that. And I just had to get away from Washington. It was very volatile at that time with all um, the unfortunate racial things going on. Just, and I'm in the middle of it because I'm teaching at a predominantly black college, Federal City College, which eventually became the University of the District of Columbia. So here I am, I land in the Bahamas, and I'm just visiting. I had been there before. Um, and I said, I would love to live here. I'm Pisces. I love the water. I love the to swim. I love to, be in a setting like this, and I hear the music, and the music goes right through me, and the musicians. It was just magnetic. And but that's a pipe dream. I'm out of work. What's going to happen to me? What am I going to do? So that night, I go to sleep, and I have a dream. My dream. I'm being interviewed by my former boyfriend, Marty Shames. And we are at the Renaissance Spa. I wonder what I'm doing here at the Renaissance Spa with Marty Shames. I wake up, an old boyfriend. I don't know what I was doing in the Bahamas with him at a spa. So, what do? I've learned later to do what I did intuitively then. You act out the dream. You make a cold call and you call the Renaissance Revitalization the spa, the Renaissance Revitalization Center. So I call and I tell them I'm a psychologist visiting and I'm inquiring about the possibility of a job. So she said, well, that's interesting. You're a psychologist. Come and talk to us. So I walk in, and the first thing she says, Mr. Shames will be with you soon.
About to fall off my chair.
And I walk in, and Mr. Shames comes out, which wasn't my Marty Shames from my ex, but was another man, Mr. Shames, who was the director of the Renaissance Revitalization Center. Well, To make a long story short, uh, job hunting. I did get a job offer. It was complicated because I wasn't Bahamian and they needed a Bahamian. And even though I was a PhD, but eventually I did end up working with the Renaissance Revitalization Center for a short period of time, but that was my entree into the Bahamas. My entree eventually took me to an academic position, and that's another story. But can you see, this was a positive dream that was showing me. Ah,
Wow.
now, what I haven't done yet, um, and I haven't hooked in the relation of the dreams and intuition. Would you like me to go there?
Yeah, that'd
Okay,
be great.
okay. I see an arc. I see an umbrella. And the umbrella says intuition. And what is intuition? The deepest wisdom of the soul. My friend Ed Kellogg calls it the inner net, the inner net instead of the internet. And it's the place where we get information and we store it there. But the deepest wisdom of the soul. So, under this broad umbrella comes things like extra sensory perception. Did I mention that yet?
No, not yet.
I did indirectly.
Oh, yeah,
My
true.
mother, my mother, when my mother said, "How's your car?" That was telepathy. So, with extended sense perception, ESP, the senses get extended. I heard a voice. That was clairaudient. I heard a voice. My mother saying that to me. Telepathy. My writing down that dream was precognition. All of that was ESP. So ESP is under this broad banner. And there's other kinds of dreaming there. There is lucid dreaming. There is past life dreaming. There are many things that we could put into that category. Creativity as well. And here I am. So the precognition is the intuitive version of the nightly dream that comes true. And that's where that fits in for me.
You speak about the partnership between intuition and dreams. How do these two work together? Some people think dreams are just symbolic. You've just explained that they are a form of intuitive guidance. Would you like to talk about that a little bit more?
Right. Um, the guidance that comes in our precognitive dreams is astonishing. It's extraordinary because again, it goes beyond and I don't know where it comes from. So I want to share as an example a dream, a health dream. Many people are worried about their health. Not surprisingly, they have all kinds of dreams about their health. I was not worried about my health. I was a very healthy dancer, for example. And so when this dream came, it was quite, I want to say astonishing, but that's not the word. It just surprised me, completely took me by surprise. Here
Mhm.
is the dream. I'm in a room with a very tall woman, and she's a doctor, and she looks at me and she says, "You have cancer." I look at her and I say, "I don't have cancer." And I get very agitated with my hands. "You're a quack. You're a phony. I don't have cancer. Why are you saying that?" End of dream. I woke up. What would any woman do after a dream like that? a breast exam. And I said, "Oh my God, where did this come from?" It absolutely stunned me. And I put it aside. But hang on to that dream. It was short, but it was very pointed, obviously. So it's now about 3 or 4 weeks later, and I had this little red dot at the end of my nose. Nothing to be concerned about, but I thought, maybe I better see a dermatologist. I go into the dermatologist, and he looks at me, and he goes close. He says, "I think you have cancer." Now, the dermatologist was a short male. This was dream reversal. The tall female became a short male, telling me, "You have cancer. You have cancer." He's looking at me, and he says, "Let me examine that. Lie down." So I lie down on the table. Next thing I know, blood is splurting all over the place. I said, "What's happening? What's happening?" He said, "I had to take a biopsy." I said, "You didn't ask me. I'm a public speaker. I don't want my nose exposed to advantages when I'm speaking." But I was stunned, absolutely stunned. So I collect myself, and he said, "Well, I am sure I need to examine you further to to give you that biopsy." So I said, "How much is it going to cost?" He said, $10,000. Now, in addition to being Pisces, I have Taurus rising, and my Taurus rising doesn't like to hear something like that. And I said, "What? $10,000?" And I got very calm. And you know what happened? I remembered the dream. "You're a phony." And because remembered the dream and telling a doctor, "You're a phony," I said, "Thanks, but no thanks." And I walked out of that office and never went back again. But what I did find out about this man, he was in trouble. He was liability for so many people, for false claims and false explorations that he was doing. And look how that dream so vividly alerted me and gave me the courage. You have to have the courage to follow through on something like that. And and you have to be sensible about it. I did go and have checks with other dermatologists, and there was nothing wrong with me. So that's was another precognitive dream that just
That's amazing. I love your dreams are so clear. Like they just tell you the thing, show you the thing. They're very realistic. It's not so, murky and random. They're just very clear. And I guess that your emotion is spiking in the dream, so it would make it easier to remember them. I'm glad that you remembered that about the phony. You're a quack and you're a phony. I love that you got that.
and I mean, and in that dream, I was dancing you're a bum to the woman, to the tall woman. Oh, it was so real to me. And when I think of, I dodged the bullet
Mm.
and listening, I just, anyway, that was just, to me, always a stunning example of listening to the dreams. So,
Yeah, that was great. For someone listening who feels disconnected from their intuition or unsure if they even have access to it, what's a simple way that they can start rebuilding that connection?
journal, dream diary, okay? I'm very, very firm on that. Once you had an experience like this, you need to say, hmm, there might be something to this. Or if somebody is listening to the podcast, they might say, "Gee, if that happened to Marcia, maybe that could happen to me. And maybe I need to start recording my dreams." And so I get myself a dream book, and we call this day notes. making your day notes. But I go even further. I take the whole thing and I want them to include little intuitive hits. I was thinking of Joe, and he called me hours later. I couldn't believe it. I had to go to the store, and I forgot my wallet. I put my hand in my pocket, and there I pulled out a $5 bill. Something of this sort. Logging the intuitions, and with the dream notes, this is very important because then you have your own proof, your own validity. You're showing things, and so to me, it gets me excited, and then you start practicing things. There's another section of that, and it's called practice. Here comes a dream. Ready? Okay, to demonstrate this.
Yeah, great.
I had a friend while I lived in Washington, D.C., Marcia the dancer, had a very close friend, choreographer Mike Malone. I should say the late Mike Malone. And Mike Malone was very good friends with Debbie Allen of fame, the dancer, Debbie Allen, and choreographer. And Mike had moved, and I didn't know where. So I programmed a dream. Where is Mike Malone living now? It's just simple. And I wrote that in my dream book. Where is Mike Malone? Or where does Mike Malone live now? That's a better way of saying it. Where does Mike Malone live now? Okay. Dream coming. The dream comes. Uh, and I'm looking puzzled in the dream. And I see Debbie Allen. And I say, Debbie, I can't seem to find Mike. Can you tell me, where is he? Where does Mike live now? Tell me how I can get in touch with him. Oh, she said, that's no problem. He moved to New York. I said, oh, thanks, Debbie. End of dream. Follow through, follow through the dream. I get on the phone and information. Information, New York, please. I'm trying to find a Mike Malone who I understand lives on the West End of New York. Oh, we have a number for a Mike Malone. They give me a phone number. I call the number, and someone picks up the phone. I say, hello, hello. Mike says, Mickey, is that you? How did you get my phone number? I just moved here yesterday. Mickey was me, the name.
Yeah.
Yeah. But can you see again? Now, isn't this something that I could encourage people to do as well?
Yeah. Yeah.
Things.
I love how you say to journal the little intuitive hits that you're getting throughout the day, because I can see how that would impact the sort of dreams that start coming through to you. We have all different types of dreams, and different people, have different styles or flavors of dreams, but whatever we're giving our attention to and are curious about and want to know more about, that's what the dreams sort of start coming and giving us those answers. So I loved your tip there. And I think it's really funny that my next question was about skepticism versus experience. And I was going to ask you, a lot of people are still curious about intuition and dreams, but they're still skeptical. What would you say to someone who wants evidence or proof before they trust it? But I feel like the start of this interview, all of those dream examples that you've given have been amazing proof. So that question's almost irrelevant now.
Well, I'll give a quick answer to that
Right.
because it's a fun answer. Um, are you aware of the Amway Corporation?
No.
Amway Products. It's a big corporation in the United States. I don't think it's operating anymore, but I had the opportunity to talk to Rich DeVos, who, with his partner, formed this incredible, I don't even know what to call it, an organization. They did everything Amway. And I said, Rich, I was writing a book of being intuitive, like it or not. And I was targeting him as a perfect person, for this. And I said, you have had so many examples of things you did to make the company grow that were very intuitive. You're a very intuitive man. Oh no, Marcia, not me. I say, yes, you, Dick. Ah, I say, Dick, come on now, you are intuitive. Now, I knew he was recoiling from the intuitive feminine word there. I say, but look, do you ever get hunches? Of course. How about you get gut feelings? He says, yes, I do. Now, all I had to do was relanguage it for him, and he realized how he was stepping outside the box. And I could have said to him, do you ever do things that go against the facts, the figures, that you go against the grain? You step outside the box. So that's an example to kind of relanguage. And one of my books, my third book, I have to think, is called Power Hunch. And I love that title because it was people, the men getting power hunches, and the women too.
Yeah, just reframing it.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's so simple, but so powerful.
right, right.
Yeah, that's great. I do want to ask a little bit more about the IASD conference and what you'll be doing with the guests there in your workshops.
Well, uh, obviously, precognition, and
Yeah.
I have to write down my title, in fact, How to Connect with Intuitive Sparks. Because I'm marrying the intuition, bringing that in, with these sparks, these ideas that come. And, they don't have to be, they don't have to be at nighttime. And so I'm teaching them how to even connect with their imagination, to relax. First of all, I'm teaching them that they are intuitive. And I do a wonderful example called a metaphor technique. And they're working with the partner and they're looking at their partner. And I'm asking them, if this person were an animal, what animal would he or she remind you of? If this person were a song, what song would they remind you of? If this person were a color, what color? And then they exchange. And in doing that, they're making connections that they can't believe. They're finding things out about a person they don't even know. One man looks at his partner and says, I see you as a rabbit. How did you know my name was Bunny? She says to him, for example. Uh, Another woman says to her partner, uh, I see you as uh, a very gifted lady that gives gifts all the time. And the woman had just given a small endowment to IASD, and she didn't know that. So all these connections are going. So as all these connections are going, they're really believing that they do. A rose by any other name, that's my middle name, Rose, is, intuition. And they're making these connections. And it is just glorious, just glorious. So we make that connection. Uh, I will take them through an exercise um, with imagination. I will take them through an exercise with precognition. Maybe finding an article in a local newspaper, or maybe finding where a friend is going to be calling them at 5 o'clock 2 days from now, something that they don't know and that they will get an impression of and write down. Um, and we're working with things like that in and of course, there's going to be an exchange of precognitive dreams. I might share one about health, and I'll let them pick one from the jar a topic. Oh, health. You tell that one, and I'll let them tell. So I like to bring about the sharing. I'm doing this differently than I've done before. It's almost like we're in a circle. I'm not worried about PowerPoints, and we're exchanging. This is the nuts and bolts of it. So, yeah.
Mm. That sounds like something that really shouldn't be missed. Some really great activities there. And I love how it's,
Hmm.
showing people that they have this ability and just, shocking them with their own instincts and intuition. That sounds really fun. After everything that you've explored, you've done psychology, intuition, and dreams. What do you believe dreams are ultimately trying to do for us?
Give us a safety net. Teach us how to go without fear.
Mm,
Teach us how to go without judgment. Teach us how to leave what I call the intuitive offenders, the wishful thinking, to stand in neutral and get your information from a credible source, your dreams. Neutral, no wishful thinking, no projection, no fear, no fear.
mm.
And to go forward. And you know, our dreams can be big, they could be small. Um, I had an example of a big dream that led me to my whole career to what I'm doing. I don't know if we have time for that, but it's up to you.
Yeah, I would love to hear it. We can finish off with that.
And then I want to end with a little, just a one liner was just unbelievable.
Yeah,
Okay.
great.
Okay. Um, that this is, you were asking me earlier what led me to where I am today. And it was a number of things, and especially in and with dreams. Okay. I had a dream about Carl Sloan. And in the dream, Carl Sloan and I were very intimate and loving. We walked along a beach. We were having a good old time, just sharing with each other, talking about experiences. And it was just the affection between us was strong. And of course, the setting, walking along a beach, was memorable. End of dream. Okay. I wake up. Hmm. I haven't seen Carl Sloan for 27 years. What was this about? Am I going to meet him again? Now, dreams and the main character, we often have to wonder, are they a metaphor? Are they a representation of someone else? Because that's the language of intuition. It's metaphor. Okay. So I had to think Carl Sloan, I had to think, do I know somebody who looks like him? And so forth and so on. So it's a couple days later, and by this point, I'm in my psychic glory. Forget about what I said earlier. I'm known as a psychic, whatever you want to call me in those days. And I was part of a psychic fair. And at the fair, a man had signed up for me. And the man's name was Weston Agor. And Weston Agor was not only interested in intuition, uh, but he was getting ready to relocate for a year from his home in where was he living? He was living in Florida, from his home in Florida to Long Beach, California. He was going from one coast to the other on a sabbatical. So he picked me somehow. And as soon as he sat down, I'm talking to him, and I say to myself, I had to hide the expression, oh my God, he looks just like Carl Sloan. Oh my God, oh my God. So the end of the session comes and he says, I find you very interesting, and I'd like to hear more about the intuition and what you are doing. So I say, okay, okay. Uh, would you like to make an appointment to come see me? So he makes an appointment to come see me. And it's just like something was getting heated up. There was something percolating there between us. I didn't know what was going on. So the next day, he's leaving on a 5 day trip to California, driving out to California. And he had my phone number. And the first night he calls me and he said, I found you fascinating. Don't you want to meet me and come out there? Well, after 5 nights of phone calls, he did send me a plane ticket, and I did go out to meet him. So, what happened is that he was very interested in how he could take intuition, psychic, he called it, and relate it to the business community. And he told me this before. And I said, I know just the book to bring you. And Douglas Dean was a very well known physicist and a friend of mine. And he had this book of ESP, psychic ESP psychics, something of that sort. And I carried that book with me to him in California, loaned it to him. Well, he got very interested in that, and he ended up making for his project for the year sabbatical that he was there. He wanted to find out the connection between people being intuitive in the business community. So he had this questionnaire and he went along. He did all kinds of research and testing. The bottom line is this excited him so he eventually wrote a book called Intuitive Management. Now, I didn't agree with him on the basis for intuition. We disagreed strongly on that. He thought it was coincidence. And I'm saying, no, no, it's not coincidence. It's really something that's very strong in the psyche and in the self. But aside from that, he wrote this book, Intuitive Management. Well, by this point, I'm going to short circuit this. I'm living in Grand Rapids, Michigan. How did I get to Grand Rapids, Michigan? I had to get married. I didn't have to get married, by the way, but I got, it sounded like I had to get married. Nothing like I met a man. I met a man at a conference. I fell in love with him. I dreamt about him before, and then I meet him. Anyway, and his name, my last name is Emery, and his first name was Jim Emery. So I meet Jim Emery at the conference, and we go out to this conference. And so at this point, I'm in Grand Rapids because I'm married to Jim Emery, who lived there, and I was very interested continually in intuition and what's going on. So one night, we're at a meeting, a unity meeting, and afterwards at the gathering, a man comes up and he holds and shows me this book, Intuitive Management. He said, and he was the head of the undergraduate business department. He said, do you think you could teach a course like this on intuitive management? I open the book and I show him I'm one of the two people the book was dedicated to.
Yeah.
I think I know something about this. I think I know something about this. So that was my entree to teaching undergraduate a course in business, integrating intuition and logic for management to undergraduate students. I didn't stop there. One day in the Xerox room, I meet the head of the graduate department in business. And I introduce myself. And he says, yes, I heard about you. You're teaching the undergraduate. I said, would you like me to teach this course in the graduate program? Integrating intuition and logic for business managers. I not only taught that course for 10 years in the graduate department, it was the first of its kind anywhere in a business division. And as a result of my being there, okay, oh, I need to write a book. I need to have my book for them. And that's what led into my first book, the Intuition Workbook, published by Prentice Hall. The first time a publisher, a real live publisher, put out a book a how-to book on intuition. And then I went to the intuitive healer book, and then I already mentioned Power Hunch. But all of this going on. But look, with my connection with Weston, look with that dream. It started with Carl Sloan to Weston to this and that to romance. And we did have a romance. We did, we didn't. And, that was in and out. Obviously, had to be out because then I married Jim.
Mm.
That Jim was in and Weston was out to his dismay. But one thing after that, but it brought me right into the field of intuition, where I'm not only writing and speaking, but I'm in the business arena now. I'm giving workshops to General Motors, to Amway, to the top people. All of this, which began with Carl Sloan, i.e., Weston Agor,
Yeah.
intuitive management, the dream. That was a big dream. That was a big,
Wow.
a career path, a
Yeah.
path dream. Yeah.
Oh, I've absolutely loved hearing about your journey, and I love how you've weaved dreams into each of the answers that you've shared. This has been so amazing. Marcia, is there anything else that you feel called upon sharing before we wrap up?
Yes, I do. Yes, I
Mm.
do. Um, your dreams can be fragments. Your dreams could be one liners. Your dreams could be a person, a word. Take everything seriously. And I want to give a quick example. It was a couple weeks ago. I had a dream, and I'm standing tall by myself, and I'm in a wine bar where Jim and I go dancing on Friday nights. But I'm dancing by myself, and there's my friend Ed standing in the corner, just looking at me, and I'm dancing and I'm feeling good. And where's Jim? He was nowhere to be seen. He wasn't around. So I said, I have to get up and dance by myself. And I'm up and I'm standing up and I'm dancing. And a couple came over to me, two people. They were dancing. They wanted me to dance with them. And and I wasn't going to do it, but I had the dream. So they invited me, and if to dance with them doesn't mean we were holding on, but we're just moving together. We're moving together, and I felt so good. And it was just me by myself. Now Ed's standing there. He's always saying, "You've got to act out your dreams," and that's why I act and said that to the couple. So what happened after that? I'm feeling good. Time came to go. And I'm walking over to say goodnight to someone. And there was this woman, and people there enjoy watching me dance. I'm not bragging, but I'm a dancer, and they enjoy my movements. And this woman grabbed me. She was just so beautiful and hugged me. She said, "Marcia, I love you so much. I'm so happy you're here." Someone sitting at the table right there says, "I love you too." A couple of other, this is real life. A couple other people started saying that. And I'm smiling and I'm waving and I'm saying goodbye. I go out the door. Jim is by this time with me. We're walking toward the car. Do you know what I saw? A double rainbow. I walked into this double rainbow at the culmination of this experience that just started with this one line dream. So, calling all dreamers, everything is important. Everything. It could be a daydream. It could be a night dream. It could be an intuitive something that flows at you. Everything is important.
Mm, that's so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. This whole conversation has been a reminder that there's a layer of intelligence within us that doesn't shout, it nudges, it whispers, and often it shows up in our dreams. So, if you're listening and this sparked something in you or made you look at your dreams a little differently, then you're already closer to that connection than you think. A huge thank you to Marcia Emery for sharing her work and insights. And if you want to dive deeper, you can catch her presentation at the International Association for the Study of Dreams conference. And I will put her links in the show notes as well. So you can go and have a look at her books and everything else she's been giving, or, book a session with her. And as always tonight, pay attention to what shows up when you sleep. It might just be saying exactly what you need to hear. Thank you so much, Marcia.
Thank you. Thank you very much.